Typically, people think of a mainframe as being isolated within an organization. But the number of attacks that are happening across the organization and across the enterprise, that information is getting populated. The cyber resilience and cybersecurity is something everybody is worried about, particularly when you start thinking about artificial intelligence and other ways to go ahead and extract data from people's records.
Coming from the conference training side of the industry, one of the things that we're seeing is a lot of organizations aren't training their staff, and these attacks are happening because of people installing things incorrectly or leaving a door open where it shouldn't be open. And it's really important for organizations to make sure they're still investing in their employees so that they can continue to learn what they need to secure the mainframe.
That's really a question that Vanguard gets asked frequently when we go on on-site visits. Of course, our market space is the Fortune 500, and they talk in confidence about their concerns. There's over 50 websites that I was looking at today that provide recommendations on the way you should take a look at your security, take a look at your compliance, take a look at regulations. And how does an organization absorb all 50 websites and decide what's best for the organization? This is a complex problem. It's getting more complex every day as the subjects become more difficult. Finally, in relation to that, there's deep requirements with regulations that can cause financial harm to a company. Like GDPR is, I think it's 5 or 6 times your annual income, or the way they report it. So that goes right to the bottom line. So this is a very tough subject to deal with, and everybody in the company has to pay attention to it. The sophistication of the attacker today, even down to where you go ahead and get a PDF in the email that looks like it's correct, could be loaded with all kinds of scripts that can do things. Cybersecurity is a international, national, and local problem for all of us to pay attention to. Recently, the director of FBI was asked by Senate what is one of the biggest concerns he has. And he said it's cybersecurity attacks from the Chinese. They are well positioned and they understand what they're doing. We tried to gear this particular conference this year. We're bringing in all the major vendors with their speakers on how to help the industry secure the systems they have and protect the data.
It is extremely important, and Vanguard was founded in 1986 with the idea that people needed to be trained. There wasn't adequate training out there, and we saw a need, and we went out and we fulfilled that need. And part of that is with Vanguard Security and Compliance, which is an annual conference of really cyber industry leaders. So we have people from IBM, Broadcom, Rocket, that's just to name a couple of them. And of course, Vanguard speakers are there as well, so that we can teach the attendees what is happening in the industry today and what do you need to prepare yourself for things that are coming around the corner.
We've trained all of us to want the mainframe to be as responsive and easy to use and be able to develop applications quickly. And so the cybersecurity resilience is the combination of having a global view of what you're trying to accomplish, getting to buy in with all the security people, getting to buy in at the board of directors level, and most of all, getting a buy-in with the end user where you're protecting them all the time. There is no time in the industry now for unavailability. Everybody wants their systems to be available. It's a tough subject, and it's one that would take hours to talk about. But when you sit with the CISOs, or like we do at the conference, where you sit around the table with these companies that are coming to educate their folks, they're very, very aware of it and the need of it. And they're taking it to heart about how important it is to listen to the industry leaders.
The role of forming a new generation on the mainframe. That's a tough one, of course, because we're seeing, a lot of the people that have been on the mainframe for a long time are starting to retire and go off and do other things. And where are we going to get the people that are going to run the mainframe going forward? A lot of organizations like Vanguard has partnered with local universities to bring in IT interns and work with them on teaching them the mainframe. But a big part of it is also at our conference or on our training platforms is teaching them the basics of the mainframe. We literally start with what are the basics of the mainframe, and we go all the way up through RACF security, top secret, ACF2. We have to teach the next generation on how to make their organization cyber resilient.
It's really fun to come to work and see them working. And they're on different schedules because some are still in college. We keep a large percentage of them, and they're doing great work. What I think is not only they're smart, not only do we pick the top producers intellectually, and that have the right skills, that we make sure through testing and observation that they can make a contribution, but we give them an opportunity to grow and understand the technology, and they're adapting to it, and they like it. And so it's kind of a fun time for Vanguard to pass the baton to the next organization, the next people that want to do this. One last point. We make sure they understand our products, because that's what our customers buy, and that's what the customers expect performance on, and that's what their investment is in. So during this whole period of time, they learn all of our tools, how they were built, why they were built, how to upgrade them, and how to add features to them. And that's all part of sitting with a client and see what they need in the future. So it's a lot of fun.
It is a lot of fun. And it's also, if you go back to talk about the different generations of the mainframe, when you see, it started with this green screen, and then eventually it got the GUI, and then eventually it got something else, and now we're on to SIM connectivity. And all of those are different generations coming up with that technology. Yeah. And so you talk about educating the generations. They're bringing new things to the mainframe. Not every IT person is a mainframer, and that, we all know that every IT person has their own specialities, but it's really important for us to work with, when we bring these interns in, we actually have a program where we run them through the mainframe. Like, it is a mainframe boot camp, and it's learning, we start them, of course, on RACF, but they're learning DB2, and they're learning kicks, and they're learning every aspect of it. And that is before we even let them loose on Vanguard software. We're running them through a boot camp. And a lot of that is stuff that we have been training on since 1986. We've been training on mainframe boot camp, and that is one of the only, at our conference, that we've had since 1986. Our only track that has never changed is our basics of administration, and that's teaching all the basics on RACF on the mainframe.
We've been training on that since 1986. They may not be a developer. They could be a systems person that we raise out of this group. They could be on the help desk. They could end up being in system support. They could be a professional services person that we're training for the future.
Absolutely.
So there's a lot of different roles that they can have. And we start out with a block of maybe like 20, something like that, 25 that are selectively picked. We'll have a large number that apply, and that gets down to like 20 or so. And a large percentage of those we end up integrating in the company. And it's an interesting point you brought up, Heather. I hadn't thought about it, but we've been training people for a long time, so we have all the skills internally. It's not like we have to go hire somebody to do it and teach us how to do it. This is what we do. Mm-hmm. It's one of the hallmarks of the inception of Vanguard. The other part that you bring up is that when we sit with a client and they want something, let's say like easy API to use that's got to integrate at a bank and talk to a bunch of outside applications that they're having trouble to get to work, That's what we do, is we sit with our customer and get that figured out. And that's part of the culture also, is to be able to go and develop a document, get on the phone with the client, learn early on what the client wants, get the spec written, get a success statement so they're going to pay us when they're done, and then work with the senior individuals that have all the skill set. So the people that we're passing the baton to, they're not only getting trained from an educational point of view, but they're getting the mentorship and the leadership that we provide. I think that's one of the reasons they stay with us. When we bring them in, it's because we provide leadership at every level and hold a high bar for them to do the job better and produce stuff for the client to help the customer solve the problem.
We truly believe that knowledge is the best defense in every aspect, whether you're, and it's not just going to these education programs like Vanguard Security and Compliance or our online training, but it's also about being where you can network with others and learning about what they're doing and what they're seeing and how you can combat it. Because chances are, if one person is seeing it, someone else is seeing it too. Or if one person has that question, someone else has that question too.
Heather, you were there at the conference a couple of years ago, and we had clients come to us and ask us how we can improve. And we talked about this before, Reggie, patch management. And I think there's maybe 2 or 3 people that offer some capability of this, but they sat with us for a whole day. 2 different organizations in the same industry trying to solve the same problem, and they came up with a lot of ideas on how to help the industry to make it better. And that's what makes it fun for us as a vendor, being able to help these companies solve this particular problem. And when they invent it for you, they're the ones that are living it every day. And that's what drives the people that we're training here. And when we talk to them, we say, we have this project, we have to get it done within 24 months or 48, or whatever the window is, and we want to put you on this. And they have a goal, and they have something they want to accomplish. And I think you're 100% correct. Knowledge is the best defense at every level in the organization, Heather, all the way down to the passwords and everything else.
We talked about a lot today, and I think it all comes down to making sure you have a good cyber resiliency plan and making sure that education, not just for yourself, but for your teams, is one of your top priorities.
I agree 100% with you, Heather. I have to. Since you're already in the conference. But, in my youth, I'd say probably the last 6 years, we've gone through a lot as an enterprise, not only us, but everybody else. We went through COVID, people working remotely. Now they're working 3 days a week. And the stress on these systems to provide the levels of security you have to have is deeper. And with all the movement of the data, they're shipping it all over the place. You have to make sure you're watching it closely. I think we're probably one of the most exciting times for security and compliance and audit that you can hit. When we go to the audit conferences, I am amazed at how knowledgeable the auditors are on all the platforms. And that's improved a lot. 10 years ago, they just had a checkbox and they would ask somebody, is this okay? Now they're opening the hood and they're really taking a look at what's going on inside the systems. So it's a lot of fun.